Welcome back to the Friendly Fox. The season is upon us, and so I'm going to use some extra material that I just had, and I'm going to make some oven mitts. So let's get sewing. Always remember to iron your fabric before you start cutting. For all pieces of this, you have to cut four layers because you've got the top and the bottom, and so you don't want anything to not be insulated. So we're going to cut 4 layers. I don't know if you've ever sewn with paper pattern pieces. They slide all over the place. And even when I was a new sewer and I was sewing with paper pieces, I would either pin them to the fabric or I would go ahead and cut them out in a fabric so that it was easier for me to cut them when I placed them on the fabric that I was actually going to sew. So this is the lining piece that I've just cut out, and you need the part that's next to your skin for both. So that's why you have to cut out 4 pieces. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the fabric that's actually going to show to the outside. Okay, so that's 2. I'll cut 2 more. And now I'm going to cut the insulation. And the insulation, again, you need 4 pieces because you don't want it on this side and accidentally put your mitten on it upside down and burn your hand right through the cotton. So we're going to cut 4 of this. This is a medium weight batting. You can get it at the fabric store. Okay, that's all our pieces cut. Let's go sew. Here's the layup to before you take it to the sewing machine. The 2 pretty pieces will face each other. So right sides together. And then this piece goes on top, so that when you turn it inside out, the insulation is right next to your hand. And on the back side, in case you put your mitten on backwards, we're going to do the same thing. The insulation goes to the back side of the fabric that's going to be facing the public. And then the lining goes on next. And we're going to stitch through all of these layers, and then when we turn it inside out, that'll be the side that's facing. Okay, let's sew. When you're doing the stitching, it's important that you check back with yourself constantly to make sure you're not missing any of the, because these can shift in the layers, so you want to just keep checking back to make sure that you're stitching everything together. I'm using a 1/2 inch seam allowance on this. Because it's bulky, it's actually showing up less than that. When you come into this little V here, bring it in. You can't double back without too much bulk in there. So just bring it to the center point and do about 3 or 4 stitches. With your needle still in, turn it to now make the turn. So now I want to check both sides to make sure I caught everything, because once you turn it inside out, it'll be impossible to turn it back around if you've missed anything. So just go around and make sure you've caught all the different layers to make sure that it's all stitched together. And then in this V here, see where I've come in and then done 3 or 4 stitches and then go back out. You couldn't come down and go back up. There'd be too much bulk there. So now I'm going to use my scissors and just put a V there. In the V, I'm going to cut a little bit of this fabric away so that it'll turn nicely. And then I'm also going to cut a little bit of this excess bulk around out of the way. Maybe a little bit right here. And now I'm going to turn it. This is the hardest part of making a mitten. I'm going to have to work with that a little bit, but now I'm going to go around the edge here with seam binding. I've cut this seam binding, bias tape, seam binding, same thing, 4 inches longer than what the measurement of the mitten opening is. And I've cleaned this up a little bit so that it's just easier to work with. And now I'm just going to open it up and stitch that to that so that I can close it over and it'll look like that when we're done. So, right sides together, and we go. Now we're going to fold this over and stitch it again. And what this does now is just cover all of this up. That's the trim all done. And now I'm just going to stitch this closed and loop it. So now I've stitched this closed, and now I'm just going to loop it so that it's a place to hang the oven mitt. Because it's going to be a pressure point from hanging, stitch over it 2 or 3 times. Now I'm going to cut all my threads and just clean it up, and that's what it's going to look like. And there we're done. There's the mittens already finished. They'd make a great hostess gift, or if you wanted to make a homemade Christmas present for somebody. They're pretty easy to do. I would recommend this for a beginner. You just have to go slow if you're not real familiar. So and you want to have a good strong machine. So yeah, I would recommend these for a beginner. Thanks for joining me. The pattern's available on thefriendlyfox.co.